all of a sudden, the treatment of Christians in the Middle East is a trending topic, with much of that focus being on Israel. So, what's the reality? Well, Danny Burmawi was born and raised in Jordan, then left Islam to follow Jesus, and then spent the next 14 years of his life in Lebanon. So, Danny, I know this is a big question, but what is the reality of Christians in the Middle East?
So, Raj, 14 centuries ago, the Prophet of Islam, Muhammad, said that I will expel Jews and Christians out of the Arab Peninsula. And since then, that was a rule, and it has been followed. Christians and Jews and other minorities, if they don't submit to Islam, then they will be just cast out of any territory. The Middle East and North of Africa, actually, they were Christian territories. Now they are 99% Muslim territory. And Christians, it's like probably less than 1% in total. Christians have been suffering under Islam since the inception of Islam. And when Christians were not suffering, it was only because they lived as dhimmis, as second-class citizen. That is the only way a non-Muslim is allowed to live in peace in an Islamic country. Even the Jews, before Sykes-Picot, before the fall of the Ottoman Empire or the Islamic Empire, the Islamic Caliphate, the Jews were able to build Tel Aviv in 1907, to build institutions in Israel, and no one objected to that. No one said anything. Why? Because they were living under the umbrella of the Islamic Caliphate. But suddenly, when the Jews decided that they wanted sovereignty, they became a colonial group of people, and that is how attacking them became, since the last century, it's the norm. So yeah, Christians are being slaughtered in multiple Islamic countries. Look at what's happening in Nigeria, for example. Do you remember what happened in Iraq with the Nasara and the Noon, the letter Noon, being marked on their houses? It's like, so if you are trying to deny the fact that Christians are persecuted in Islamic countries, then you're lying or you're an ignorant. There's no third option.
Mhm. Well, I just think it's important for people to know, as you pointed out, that basically the entire Middle East was at one point Christian. You even look at some of these mosques in places like Syria, you can tell that used to be a basilica. Um, and I think people don't realize that Islam, conquered all of Spain, went well into France, was, basically in Vienna. And there was a point when the existence of Christianity was almost snuffed out by the conquest of the sword of Islam. And that's not hateful. That's just historic reality. And to think that that's just not the case anymore, I think we say, well, we've moved past that. Well, a lot of places in the Middle East have not moved past that. And to your point, with the treatment of Christians in Syria, the treatments of Christians in Iraq, in Lebanon, and Nigeria. I mean, this is an ongoing thing, and yet the focus, for some reason, has turned to Israel. Israel seems to be what everyone is kind of piling on as the main persecutor of Christians. And just for the record, I've never received a dime from the state of Israel. In fact, I always have to say that. It's so ridiculous. I'm not Jewish, but I've been to Israel 30 times. I've never once been treated poorly. I've never once seen someone spit on, but obviously there are videos that have gone viral, and that seems to be, oh, well, Israel is the problem for Christians in the Middle East. How would you respond to that?
How ridiculous it is to view being spit at in comparison with beheading as equal to beheading. So that's how I look at it. It's like you're ridiculous if you think that Israel is persecuting Christians just because you saw a video of a Christian evangelist trying to proselytize a Jewish ultra-Orthodox person, and that person just spat on the ground. Do you know that these people, the radical ultra-Orthodox Jews, they also spit on secular Jews? Sometimes. So we're talking about isolated incidents. We're not talking about like something that is happening all the time in Israel. But it's like, even though it's like, regardless of this fact, there is, it's not the same category when we are talking about how Christians are being treated across the Islamic world. Look at Hagia Sophia. Hagia Sophia was a church. Now it's a mosque. Look at the Church of Saint John the Baptist in Damascus. Now it's a mosque. Look at the Christian holy sites in the Holy Land. Are they synagogues? Have they been turned into Jewish temples? Or Israel protected these sites?
A great point.
Israel, as a matter of fact, Israel protected the foreign god temple, which is Al Masjid al Aqsa, which is built on the Temple Mount, the same location of the Jewish temple. It was protected by Israel. So when you think about the fact that these sites that Christians love and want to protect, and all this propaganda that Israel is a threat, if you think about it, what if these sites were under the rule of Islam?
Yep.
How many church would remain there? I know that there are churches in Jordan. Of course, there are churches in Jordan, historical churches. But again, I'm talking about the royal family being tolerant of Christians, and because it's a dictatorship, people cannot do whatever they want. However, if it's up to them, in Jordan, for example, if it's up to not everyone, but it's like a good number of people, Christian would not even be secure. I'll give you an example, if you allow me. 2 years ago, in the last Christian town in Jordan, Christians decided to install a statue of Jesus Christ in the town square. You can go and Google it. You will find the story. Within 2 hours, government representative called the city and he said, no, this is provocative to Muslims. Remove it. And they had to remove it to the graveyard of the town. This is an example of what does it mean to be a Christian under Islam in the most tolerant country that is being promoted as the most tolerant country. So yeah, the king is amazing. He looks like an American senator. That's why Christians are protected in Jordan.
Mm. Well, with the focus on Israel, it's just kind of my expertise, just because I've been there so many times. There was an Arab Christian on the Israeli Supreme Court. The Christian population of Israel is growing. I've been to numerous Christian churches all over. Israel is the first country in the Middle East to recognize Aramean Christians. I mean, it's so absurd that it's almost insulting. And then the people will say, well, look at the Christian population within the Palestinian territories. I'm saying, okay, let's look at it. Look at places like Bethlehem and Ramallah. The Christian population has absolutely plummeted, but has the population plummeted? No, Ramallah's growing, Bethlehem's growing, but the Christian population is shrinking. Well, why is that? When Israel controlled Bethlehem up until I think 1993, 94 with the Oslo Accords, it was a predominantly Christian country. Now Israel pulls out, and it's under the control of the Palestinian territory, and the statistics have completely inverted. And these are just things that you won't hear amongst popular commentators who have some sort of weird agenda to demonize Israel and the Jewish people. But I won't stand for it, because it's like, I've been there. Like, what are you talking about? But I guess there's just a lot of confusion, Danny, about what's the reality of Christians. And you've already spoken brilliantly and at length about this. But maybe in closing, what's some wisdom? I guess what's some discerning words that you would like to give people at home who are really confused right now and trying to process, like, wait, is this true? What's the reality? That sounds strange. So yeah, maybe just in closing, Danny, does God have anything on your heart that you want people at home to know about your people in the Middle East?
It is ironic that someone, an American Christian, would go to my country, Jordan, and would say that, I'm Christian, I'm here, I'm free, I'm protected, while at the same time, I am Jordanian and I can't go to my country. Why? Because I'm a convert from Islam and I'm pro Israel. So it is just ironic. But to people in America, I say just do a little experiment. Just go to YouTube and find Messianic Jews evangelizing by the Western Wall. The Western Wall is probably the most sacred spot in Judaism today, and Messianic Jews, Jews who convert to Christianity, can go and stand there and talk about their faith publicly to other Jews. Now, give me an example in Jordan where any Christian in any spot in the country can talk about their faith publicly. That should be, that little experiment should tell you the reality. I understand that the whole Israel Palestine thing is very confusing to people. People don't understand what is the West Bank, what is what is Israel. So the numbers are being used in a deceptive way because yes, the number of Christians in the PA controlled areas under the Palestinian Authority, the number of Christians decreased. But these numbers are being used to say, look, it's because of the occupation. That is not true. As you just said, that when Israel had full control, Christians were, their numbers were stable. When Israel withdrew, the numbers started decreasing. However, in Israel, the number of Christians it's the only place in the region where the number of Christians is actually increasing. So now take it from someone from that region. I'm telling you, these voices that you hear today, vilifying Israel, trying to prove that Christians are being, treated very well under Islam, not so well under Israel. I tell you this, that is a lie, and that lie is designed in order to promote other things that I don't have the time to talk about now, but it is a lie. Christians under Islam historically suffered, under Israel they are thriving.
Well, Danny, I appreciate your time, my friend. Shukran, and God bless.
Thank you so much, Raj.